Welcome to the Southeast Retirement Planners Podcast, where we will go beyond the balance sheet with our guests, not only to share from our personal experience as financial advisors of over 25 plus years, but also to learn from our guests about the issues and topics that are important to them. Our firm specializes in taking care of the financial plans for individuals and small businesses by helping our clients identify their individual goals and taking a conservative and ongoing approach to helping accomplish them. We are located in Hickory, North Carolina, and look forward to continuing to serve our clients and our community. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy this week's episode. We're back here with Southeast Retirement Planners Podcast for our next episode. Joining me, my name is Bob Fincher. Joining me today is one of our partners and founders, Ryan Edwards. And we have a lot of options of things to talk about and content that we want to cover and things like that. And one of the things that's come up in conversation lately within our office and with some of the clients that we work with as well is coaching. And there's so much going on in the world today. And what does coaching mean? And I mean, we can go from as far back to the coaches that you and I used to have,
T-ball,
T-ball, football, whatever, and whether they were good or bad, now we have kids kind of the same age, and you get to kind of evaluate what their coaches are sort of doing and how times have changed.
Times have changed a lot. Yeah, no, I mean I think I've always been kind of a coach at heart. I don't know. I'm sure there's various thoughts on how good I might be,
right?
Or
up for
not
interpretation.
Good. Yeah, for interpretation. But no, it's always something that's been big for me, and I know you as well. We obviously want what's best for our kids, but I think we both credit to ourselves.
You actually coached, like I say, professionally, like loosely.
Well, I did it somewhat for pay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was a job.
It was a job.
It was your profession.
It was. I always wanted to be in college coaching when I got out of college. So I was through some connections I had, I was able to do that for 4 years on assistant college basketball level.
Yeah.
At a couple of different schools, and from there, once I had kids, I guess kind of fast forward, got involved with them, and I've been pretty heavily involved with travel AU basketball, and I think it's something important. I know the same thing for you. I think you can look back at, for me and you, I don't want to speak for you, but I think we can definitely see the influences that our coaches have had on just us growing up, even from a parent's perspective, our fathers, being a coach, maybe not blowing a whistle at a game, but certainly being a dad or a coach. I think I heard a good saying, there's probably not one person more impactful to a person's, a young man's life and his growth, more than his father, other than a coach.
Yeah, you know what? That's absolutely the case for me. I'm sure you have the same sort of stories. I can think back to some of the coach. I had some of the guys that coached me in football coming up are still men that I talk to today. That some of those relationships were built. Those are men that I look up to that sort of imparted that wisdom on me way back when. And I wonder now. And it's not really a knock on kind of the coaching environment now. It's more like the culture of what's going on in the world. Yeah. There's a vacuum of that kind of leadership these days, I think.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. And I think that, we long for that for our kids. But at the same time, we're older. It's hard to find a good coach for your adult league softball team.
Yeah.
And I don't,
right.
And I have no desire to go through the injury process of joining a basketball team, the Y League or whatever. I'll just walk and do my own workout.
Yeah,
but I think that's what's kind of transpired is, with me is looking and knowing the benefits of a coach, and that's kind of where it's an all-encompassing topic. But me and you've had conversations, and I've got several coaches.
Well, look, but even before we get into that, the reality is, you need coaching in your life, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You need coaching. You need coaching on the fundamental. Just the same thing when I look at where our kids are right now, and when you're coaching your kids' basketball team, or I'm helping with my girls' lacrosse team, or with Will doing something, it's the fundamentals that are the building blocks. of whatever, right? And then you were fortunate enough to play basketball in college, and I played football in college, and it's like you can still learn, right? You can still enhance your skills. You can still learn new things. Like I look at now, just the technique and the way certain things are being taught athletically, it's very different. And some of it is so much more advanced, but it's very different than the way we learned. And I know that you probably do drills with your AAU kids now that you never did back then because it's just something new and it's a different way to kind of enhance that skill set.
That's right.
And I think part of our conversation, business-wise has been, all right, well, I mean, it's a pretty common thread, coaching. That's something that as a financial planner over the last handful of years, I find myself doing more and more financial coaching than I ever have with clients. Right. I mean, even just meeting with, say, I've got a client and they're wanting to start investing for their younger kids or even adult kids and then grandparents and that sort of thing, that multi-generational planning. Well, now, a lot of these people have never been taught how to budget. Right. That doesn't have a whole lot to do with an investment portfolio directly.
Well, some of the things that just when you were speaking there, the coaches, some of the best coaches and teams are formed. Their relationships are formed off trust.
Yeah.
Period.
Sure.
I mean, yeah. and coaches, what you're doing is we're sitting down. You're doing it. I'm doing it. Les is doing it. Matt's doing it. Everybody in our office. We're having conversations that are not just about investments.
Yeah, all the time, right? More so, and I think that's crucial. I mean, I think that's kind of what's a separator for us is that those conversations lead us to the goal, but you puts us on the same side of the table, and it creates that level of trust. So I think that's it's intertwined there. A good coach at a collegiate level or some of the best performing teams. I was just listening to an audio book today on the treadmill, and he was talking about Coach K and how his level of coaching, he was able to form a level of trust. And I think that's not necessarily easy for some people to be able to do it. But I think we pride ourselves in being able to have conversations that we can always get better at it. Each person's different. Yeah.
But that's
well. In that, I mean, I think that's one of the more important parts of it is when you say something like, we can always get better at it. Mm-hmm. Okay. I was talking with a client. In fact, it was on one of our earlier podcasts, and he's a small business owner. And he said, I realized that there's a lot I don't know. And there's a lot I need to get better at, and I think when we look at a lot of the people who come to work with me, and similar to the people that come to work with you, a lot of them are saying, look, there's other things that I do in my life. I've got a business to run. I've got a career to worry about. I've got a family to take care of. I've got whatever, all these. This is an area I don't understand very much, mm-hmm. this financial planning side of things. I need help with this. Right? And so they come asking for help mm-hmm. and needing coaching, so to speak, right? Right. And I think that, for our clients, that's certainly of benefit. But then professionally, we need help. Yeah. I mean, this landscape that we're in, regulatory environment, whether it's rules and regulations or even marketing or techniques. You look at kind of the year we've been through over the last year and the way we used to do things, all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, you can't do them that way anymore. So it's like, are you able to adapt? Can you accept a new way of doing things, new technique, new fundamentals? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like exercise some new muscles. And so now, just to kind of open up the whole conversation, you go from like our experiences being coached as kids to experiences playing at a higher level with coaching to now coaching other people. And then you got business coaches, you got financial coaches, you got life coach, you got a spiritual coach, you got a health and nutrition coach. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe they're not all coaches to everyone. Sometimes they're mentors. Sometimes they're just, some people that provide guidance. They're just people that are kind of in your circle. But I think a lot of it ends up still being considered coaching.
I agree with that, and I think it takes, I'm always conscious. I'm trying to kind of think 2 or 3 steps ahead, or gauge myself personally. On if I've got things in order personally to take that next step. I've got some pretty lofty goals, and not just business wise, but family wise, body wise, just my being, spirituality and things, and that it's always I want to be better.
Not taller.
Well, I don't give up often, but I have given up pretty much on
it.
it. I don't think it's attainable. I don't think it's attainable. But I think that now not everyone's open to it, but it's something I've been open to. I've got a buddy that he's got a coach for everything. Like how maybe to walk to his front door. I don't think it's just everything. He'll sign up for something, but it's something I have pursued on the business side, not necessarily from the investment side, but I think that's allowed Southeast retirement planners to have a core foundation that we took on about 10, 11 years ago. That's propelled us to make sure we're working in the right areas.
All right, so what do you be specific then? Mm-hmm. Because I know that's through my years in the business, there's been different opportunities, and they call them coaches at times, mm-hmm. and then sometimes they call it training or whatever. Yeah. Tell me more about that specific involvement with coaching from a business standpoint.
Well, that's a good lead in, because there's a lot of coaches out there, and what we found in our vetting or filtering process is there's a lot of coaches, but they only maybe deal with one area of the business.
Okay.
About, hey, how's the best way to get referrals, or what's the best investment idea, which we were, everybody wants that information. But we didn't want to have 5 or 6 different coaches for the business. So we myself and Les, and I know you've taken part of in a lot of this with our firm is we try to, the coaching group we're with, Academy of Preferred Financial Advisors. They're a national group, okay? But what we found with them is they work at all facets to make you as most efficient as possible, your office.
So when you say all facets,
communication.
Tell me about, is it like a whole, is it all pre-packaged stuff? Is it custom for what you do? I want to kind of give people a sense of kind of the landscape of what that coaching might look like.
It's not boilerplate stuff. It's not just cookie cutter, if you will. And that's one. It has to fit you. So if anyone listening here is how to start a relationship with a coach, it has to be a fit for you personally, something you're comfortable doing, and it didn't stray away from what was at the core. Good, solid communication with our clients. Trying not having to when we were marketing, that was one of the areas as well. So communication, marketing, but in a way where we weren't jumping up on top of a tailor trying to get people to do business with us.
Right.
It's a way to get good quality information in front of individuals we don't currently work with, but to make them familiar with us and our firm. There was also different office processes, meaning for our staff.
Organizational structure and those kinds of things.
Exactly. So when somebody calls in, we're getting their questions answered as soon as possible, and it's done in the most efficient amount of time. Our firm's growing. So if we're having to, every time, taking 15 minutes to do a 2-minute task, well, that's not efficient for anybody.
Processes are important.
Very important. So over the years, we've been able to implement those. Mm-hmm. So it's, they'll offer some investment advice and some things like that if you search it out, but it's not. It's also how we're an independent firm and how to run a business the most efficiently. That's also one of the big things, and that's what I have my hand in daily.
Yeah,
and that's been important for me, is making sure I'm working on what they call the needle movers.
Yeah. I think somebody said that there are things that only I can do. Mm-hmm. Right. And when you're talking about being kind of a business environment or running a small business, there are some things that only I can do. And I need to make sure I'm doing those things. Those are your needle movers, right? Exactly. Well, to be a part of a coaching group like that in our industry, I mean, it's free, right?
Oh, no. It's a significant investment.
Okay, right. Yeah, I mean.
My hand shook the day I wrote that check.
Yeah, I mean, it's costly to be a part of that.
It ranges anywhere from, a couple $1,000s up to high thousands, and that's where we were at. We made it. You got to make a commitment. I know a lot of friends and colleagues that are members of coaching groups, but they're not committed. They haven't researched out ahead of time a group or a person that they're comfortable with in being a coach, and they're not committed to the process. And I would encourage anybody listening that if you're a part of or if you're even considering it, you've reached yourself to a point where you want to find assistance, whether with your business or your body, if it's a fitness coach.
Yeah.
You got to be committed to get anything out of it.
Period. Well, and I think, so one of the things you said a minute ago is it needs to be a fit, right? So you got to decide, is this thing, are we going to work well together? Because if you end up with somebody who you can't communicate very well with, or they rub you the wrong way. Oh, yeah, sometimes you need a kick in the pants, right? And that's what a good coach will do, right?
That's important. Yeah.
So that's not what I mean. I don't mean something that's like, sometimes you need to step out of your comfort zone to do things. Right. But you do need it to be a fit. I think the other thing is what you're saying, you got to make an investment. Yeah. You got to have some skin in the game to help hold yourself accountable to the idea of improving this area of your life, whatever it is.
That's correct.
And I'll say, just from a professional standpoint, all that kind of aligns really well, but there's so many other areas, and it doesn't have to be a formal arrangement in some cases, whether it's sort of this idea of a life coach or some spiritual guidance or whatever. There's ways to connect with people in a way, find that fit, and provide some accountability. Say, look, this is an area in my life I need help in, right? I need some work in this, and I'm going to say that to you. And you and I have had conversations like this, right? I need some help in this area, and hey, here's some steps. Like, let's have some accountability in here. What are the 3 things you're working on this week? We just had that conversation a couple of weeks ago, right?
And there's mastermind groups as well. I know that some come with an expense, some are free. I know there's a number of different ones in the this area, this community. It may be a mastermind group for, you might want to call it your spirituality, where a group of guys or individuals get together and tackle a chapter of the Bible once a month, once a week, share their thoughts, views, and you can get a lot out of that. I'm part of a mastermind group right now. In addition to the business, they don't really help out, and I didn't seek it out for the business, but it was, really making sure I was aligned in what's called the 4 B's. Your body, your being, your bonds, and your business. We've talked briefly about that, but you were talking. The word balance is not in there. It's not one of the 4 B's.
Well, now hold on. So, a common misnomer, and this was part of our conversation the other day. A common misconception, I think, is you want to be a high performer, right? We all want that. You want to be a high performer in whatever it is that you're doing. You want to be able to be successful at your work. You want to be a successful father. You want to be a successful husband, member of the community, whatever. So work-life balance is critical.
It's total BS.
Right?
It's a G-rated, I guess, our podcast. We haven't officially rated, but
is there a beep? Do we have a
but we may need to talk about having a beep. But it's, that was a goal of mine, because that's all you hear about.
You want to have work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
It's important.
And I've come to revelation. It's not, I think you got to be aware of it and making sure that my 4 B's now are I'm paying attention to those. But for them to all be, 4 B's, they're all at 25%, so therefore I'm balanced. It's total BS. That's what I've learned. And that's taken a lot of burden off me too.
Yeah.
Meaning, because I'm not, what's perfect? Well, if you're wanting to be, have this rosy day, blue skies, red roses every morning you get up, and, if you're going to be a leader, you're going to have interactions that get you off course, that take your energy in one way or the other. And you got to see, is it useful or is it not useful for my energy? Having that or saying that little extra word to your kids of encouragement, that goes a long way. Not saying that extra word to your wife that's going to make things go the wrong way.
That could go the wrong way.
That can go the wrong way.
Not a long way.
But being aware, but being aware of that, and that helps you be, I think, a higher performer, being awareness. But being awareness, and then once you're aware, what I've learned is what do you do with that awareness? Where does that take you then? But that creates a level of, and I don't even want to use the word balance, but it starts keeping
It's
those
just
things.
not balance. It's
Yes,
priorities.
Priorities, exactly.
And
priorities.
I think that it's important for us to understand, and really, it's almost just as important for us to understand it as it is for us to communicate it with the people around us, people at our work, people at our home, whatever, that we're going to be in different seasons. Mm-hmm. And it might be like a sort of season of life right now with kids of a certain age or whatever that might look like. Or it might be a season, just a busy time of year for you in a certain area. But we only have so much bandwidth, period. Right? And it's important to be able to take inventory of that and go, look, I can't give everything I have to this and everything I have to that at the same time. Right? So it is give and take, but it's also prioritizing that there's times where I need to pay more attention to these things, and that actually can breathe life into some of the other parts of your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think people they're not aware of that.
Right.
And that could help out a lot. And that's where I knew that. Luckily, I had that awareness, I guess, without knowing. I knew I was lacking in some areas. I knew what I was doing wasn't getting me to the place I wanted to be quick enough. You know, good question is like, look down the road 6 months from now. Well, if I'm, especially during COVID, a lot of us
keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna keep getting what you're getting.
Yeah. So I'm hanging out on the back deck and eating the wrong way, and having a couple drinks. Well, next thing you know, 6 months from now,
still hanging out on the back deck.
And having
eating the wrong way.
And I'm in Betty Ford. I joke when I say that. No, I don't have a problem. But looking 6 months from now, well, I know that I need to make some changes. Well, it's nothing that eating poorly and not exercising. That's nothing new. Nothing good comes from that.
Right. Yeah. That's not new information.
But, I sought out and said, well, what I've been doing is not getting me there. So I sought out, hey, I need a little kick in the butt. Well, who's kicked me in the butt before? Well, a coach.
That's right.
So that's I was aware of it, knew I wanted to make some changes, found the right fit for me. Okay? We mentioned that earlier. And kind of in relating to the business coach I have, it wasn't in just one area. I didn't just go down to the gym and get a fitness coach.
No. And look, I think when we look at this idea of just kind of how to get started, right? Mm-hmm. Making that commitment, whether there's a fit, making an investment, being committed, all that sort of stuff. One of the things that's misunderstood about this, and it really intersects with this idea of kind of life-work balance, is it's not so much about balance, it's about finding success in a way that can actually build a fence around certain parts of that of your life in that way. So now, and you know this to be true, you start working out, you start losing weight, you start feeling better because you got this coach. Well, doesn't that help the other areas of your life too?
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like you feel like when your bandwidth, when you're spread so thin that you can't get real momentum, real traction in any area, then every area suffers. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you kind of build a fence around that one area, and it could be your Bible study, it could be a marriage counselor, it could be a business coach, a professional coach, it could be your financial advisor. I mean, so many times people come in and they're full of anxiety because they don't know what the next steps are financially. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we can put a plan in place, and all of a sudden they walk out there a little bit lighter. Yeah. Right? And now that kind of can breathe a little life into some of those other areas. Right. So I think the idea of coaching, we need to be coachable, I guess, is the real takeaway, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not easy.
No, it's not
but
easy.
You got to be aware that you don't have all the answers all the time.
Yeah.
And there's a resource out there for you if you're committed and want it.
Yeah. Well, and I think on that note, and we'll probably kind of start wrapping it up, but, we have a lot of experience in a lot of those areas, whether it's personal experience or even on the professional front. We have a lot of relationships with coaching groups that are here locally, some other more nationally known coaching groups and things like that. We can share with our folks what our experiences have been and really what the benefits and some of the pitfalls of some of those experiences have been, and we're happy to be a resource to anybody who might have some questions about that.
Definitely. I think it's it's a hard road having kids, wanting to do things the right way, having a business. There's a lot of the stuff involved with that. And I mean, it really is being conscious of it, being aware about it, aware of maybe some of your shortcomings, and just wanting to try to sharpen the knife, sharpen the sword.
Yeah, be coachable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we got to know it. So
That's good.
Anyway, well, man, thanks for spending some time with us today.
That was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it again. So for everyone out there, just be sure to follow us, like, subscribe. We're going to be on various podcast channels or on our YouTube channel, and we'll be back with you next time with another episode of Southeast Retirement Planners Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member of FINRA, SIPC. Southeast Retirement Planners is not affiliated with LPL Financial or registered as a broker-dealer or investment advisor.